useful, and or you can find a lot of repetition that I saw last year too. So before I start, I will introduce myself. I'm Professor Khandker Nurul Habib. I'm here in the transportation group. I will talk a little bit more about my research in few slides from now. But the new students, I would like to get your own introduction by you. I say if you just one by one, tell your name and which program you are enrolled at UofT now, and which university you are from. That will give us a good idea of the diversity we have. Maybe we can start. I can see the names on the inside. Presenter list started with Muhammad Abedini.
Hello all, I am Mohammed Amin Abedini. I am new master's student at UofT under supervision of Professor Eric Miller in the transportation group, and I got my BS degree from Shiraz University, Iran, and I'm looking forward to work with you all. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Mohammed. I see next in my list is Rick Liu. Hi, Rick.
Hey, so mine's Rick, and I'm also a master student, and I'm working with Professor Salaby's group, and I did my undergrad here at UT as well. So, and I believe I took your course last year.
Yeah. And you also worked in a project with us, with 4 or 5 of us together. Yeah, nice to see you. Hear you, Rick. Good, thanks. I see in my list next is Ruo Lee.
Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
my name is Ruo Wei, in Master of Applied Science program, and my supervisor is Professor Matt Roder. And I study civil engineering at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, and I just moved here 2 weeks ago.
Okay, nice. Okay, thank you, Ruo. What's your first name?
It's Ruo Wei.
Ruo Wei. Okay.
Yes, very correct.
Okay, nice. I think Felita is a student. Ala, you can add her.
Yeah, I just added her. I think she joined recently.
Okay, so next to my list is Sarah Turbat.
Hi everyone. My name is Sarah. I'm the new PhD student working with Professor Marianne, and I have a different background in comparison with civil engineering, and completed my master's studies at Dalhousie University in atmospheric science, and mainly in the branch.
Nice. Okay, so next to my is another Sarah Wagner.
Hi, I'm Sarah Wagner, and I am working on my PhD under the supervision of Dr. Rorda. I went to the University of South Florida, and I live in the United States in Florida, and I'm in the transportation department, and I also worked for about 12 years, and I'm coming back to school having worked on both the public and private side.
That's interesting. Wonderful. Next to our list, I can see Spencer McNee.
Hi, everyone. My name's Spencer. I'm studying with Professor Eric Miller, and I did my undergrad at McGill and have been working for the last couple of years.
Fantastic. I think I missed Felita Ong.
Hi, my name is Felita. I did my undergrad at UBC, graduated last year, and I've been working for the past year. And I'm starting my MASC with Dr. Habib, yourself.
Nice, thanks. I also missed Farah Gizawi.
Hi everyone, can you hear me well?
Yes, a bit low voice, but yes.
Yeah, okay. I'll try to raise my voice as much as possible. So my name is Farah, and I'm from Lebanon, and I'm joining from Lebanon as well, hoping to move to Toronto soon. I'm joining the PhD program with Dr. Matthew, also in transportation. I'm a civil engineer originally, and I did my master's in operations research at the American University of Beirut in Lebanon. and I've been working for 7 years in the transportation planning field in a regional engineering consulting firm that does work basically in the Middle East and the MENA region. And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. It is nice to see new students, at least nice to hear. I will start giving the introduction to transport research at UofT. I will basically give an overview and, suggestions that I think or we think would optimize your experience throughout the course of time you will be here. Just to acknowledge the presentation that I will be giving, I inherited almost like all slides from previous presenter, Matt Ruda, who used to be the section chair and handed things over to me. I modified things a little bit. And so this presentation list evolved over time, or the slides evolved over time. So the new students, you can stop me anytime during the presentation, okay? So I will take it very informal introduction. It would have been much better to do in person in ITS lab, but I think we can get almost same exposure here. So you can raise your hand during the presentation. Allah will be moderating it, Allah and Yasser. They can let me know if I miss. I can pause and respond to your question and comments. The whole presentation will be recorded, and you can watch it later if you want. So I will try to finish soon, and then open up for further discussion, comment, questions, suggestions, whatever you can think. Okay, I'll switch back to full presentation view and start the presentation. So today I will give you first the overall landscape of transportation research at UofT, specifically focusing on the transport research at the Department of Civil and Mineral Engineering. I will talk about why the students in this program should try to finish, not in this program, in any graduate program. What are the motivation that you should try to finish quick or sooner than later, and also why the things you should consider in a way that we recommend you to consider. I will give you some insider's view on what the supervisor's expectation in general, what a particular supervisor wants. Of course, different supervisor has different personality, but in general, what are the expectation and what are the views, what are the assessment, general understanding that exists in the mind of a supervisor, so which can help you to shape your experience to some extent. I will give you general guidance how to plan for your thesis, specifically general steps or very established steps that are commonly used. And then I will give you some tips on how to keep your project going, or how to keep your project going smoothly and efficiently. Okay, and then I will say what's the end product. Okay, so it should be a smoother experience if you follow some tips and follow some steps. Okay. All right, just to give you overview of transportation research at UofT, specifically transportation research at the Department of Civil and Mineral Engineering. So we consider this is one of the best programs in the whole world, if not in the North America per se, and let alone the Canada, because we have the research expertise and research group working symbiotically almost all areas of transportation you can think about. Especially the soft side of transportation. The core of our strength are data. So we do have a different data related component in the department, but one of the established group that I would like to highlight is the data management group. It's called DMG, that curates the data sets that have been collected throughout the whole region, not necessarily by ourselves, by also practicing agencies and stuff. So DMG is an example of showing how important the data are in terms of transportation research, and how do we contribute to the transportation research through curating and exploiting the data set that we have. Then focus, and then we do have other data related components, or data storing, collection, and dissemination type of component throughout the different group of research we have at the UofT. But DMG is an example to showing that we do evidence-based research here in transportation. which is the critical component in passenger and freight transportation research. In terms of sub areas of transportation research that we do here, that includes freight transportation, is one of the major components of transport research nowadays. It's a very challenging, and it's evolving for various reasons, for various technological innovation and so on and so forth. So we do have very strong freight transportation research group. We do have a group particularly focusing on emission modeling, air quality, and sustainable transportation engineering. We have very long established track record of modeling travel demand and land use transportation interaction modeling. We do have very strong established group working on public transit operation and planning, different stages of planning, and then we have very, very strong presence of ITS application. The ITS Center is kind of a hub of intelligent transportation research system. We have a very strong and very established group of research component in the department. All of these groups of research components work around some physical facility. ITS lab and test bed is named ITS, but all other section, all other groups also use the system in the same way. We do have DMG physical infrastructure that provides data support, and other subgroups are also building their own program and infrastructure too. So these are the basically core strength of transportation research at UofT. If I summarize in general, those are travel demand and land use modeling, public transit, intelligent transportation traffic operations, freight transportation emissions, and sustainability. At the core of all of this stuff are the strengthened by data. So you can see almost all areas of transportation are equally researched in this group of UofT. Okay, just focusing who we are, leading these groups that I showed in previous slides. The list here follows, it doesn't follow, it just follows a hierarchy. But Professor Eric Miller is the senior most professor here, a supervisor of many of us. I personally was a student of Professor Eric Miller. He is working in the area of transport planning and land use transportation interactions, travel demand modeling, data collection, all sorts of things you can think about. Professor Baher Abdul Hai, he led the ITS group, or Intelligent Transportation Section group. He is focusing on advanced traffic control and management. Professor Amer Shalabi, he leads the public transit group. He focuses on public transit and mass events in transportation, operation and planning of public transportation stuff. Professor Matt Ruda focuses and leads the group on freight transportation, his research on goods movement, and further details, he also works on passenger transportation too. I myself, Khandker Nurul Habib, my research is passenger transport planning and travel demand modeling, land use transportation interaction modeling, transport policy, and of course, travel data collection. Professor Marianne Harjupulu is also our associate chair, graduate studies in the department. She focuses on emissions, air quality, sustainable transportation. So we are 6 people here at the core in the department, belong to the civil and mineral engineering, but we also have other people outside the department or inside the department. They work in general transportation area, and also work in collaboration with us and independently too. So there are few professors in the department work on topics directly related to or on specific transportation elements too, like Professor Heather McLean. She's an expert in environmental aspects and alternative fuel technology. Professor Tamer Al-Dirabi, she's a full professor. He works on infrastructure and information management and do a lot of collaboration with us, co-supervision with many of us. Professor Shoshana Sachs, she looks at sustainable urban infrastructure, and transportation is one of her key research interests. Professor Daniel Posen, he works on life cycle assessment and greenhouse gas emission and sustainability too. So they are also our core affiliates, and in the department we do have Dr. Judy Farbolden. She is the director of UTTRI. So I'll talk about what UTTRI means. And Pat Doherty, she mentions she's a very critical person, well, so critically important person for the UTTRI, who manages the events and the communications for the whole group. So UTTRI is called University of Toronto Transportation Research Institute, which pulls together all transportation research components, the researchers and the resources together at the department and on behalf of the whole university. So UTTRI is beyond transportation of civil engineering. It also includes other transportation research groups in the campus. But the first two slides that I showed, first slide and the previous one, where the six of us, the core transportation group in the Department of Civil and Mineral Engineering, and we have additional core affiliates who also work on transportation-related topics and collaborate with us and work independently too. Okay. So UTTRI, as I just told, UTTRI is a kind of an umbrella organization who try to brings together all transportation research and researchers from the whole university. And it's kind of like in leading the whole transport research on behalf of the whole university. Professor Eric Miller is the director of UTTRI, and it's kind of a center of excellence for transportation research. It gives a space for government and industry academic collaboration. It dedicates to provide evidence in support of decision making. So it also enables more of technology transfer and information dissemination. There are a few faces you can see. Some of them are common, you saw in last two slides. Some you haven't seen. Some other people are basically from other departments, but they do very much transportation research as we do too, but in different aspects of it. Okay, so I will, that's a brief introduction. We do have a UTTRI website. If you go to well, you just search UTTRI at Department of Civil Engineering, you can find the website. I kind of don't remember the exact, the link address here, but you can easily find it. And where you can find all of the affiliates and associate members' name and their research, their corresponding websites, and also you can get a list of projects, interesting thesis works, and all sorts of documents are out there. I wouldn't waste more time on it because those things you can easily go to the website and see it, but I will like to focus more on a program that you guys are in, and that's your immediate interest. So in terms of graduate program, we have three programs here that we invite students to start their academic career after undergraduate. That includes a PhD program, Master of Applied Science program, and Master of Engineering program. So PhD, as you know, it's a longer term program. It's generally, it comes with a 4-year worth of guaranteed funding. When you get a PhD admission, you have 4-year worth of guaranteed funding. MSc starts with 2 years worth of guaranteed funding, but MEng is more of an applied program. It does not have any funding attached to it. So I will talk a little bit more about MEng program in a few slides now. If I just focus a little bit more on PhD. So PhD students of 4 years normally starts with taking courses, graduate courses, and we have a specific number of course recommendations that you have to take. After taking courses, some students go directly to an exam called comprehensive exam. Some students start their research and go comprehensive exam a few months later or a few semesters later. So PhD is a research-oriented program, which expects that you will come up with an idea to investigate so details that you have some sort of fundamental contribution to the state of the art in terms of understanding methodology, techniques, and various ways of justifying. There are various ways of justifying your contribution, but you require some sort of fundamental contribution to it. MSc is also research-based master's program. It's called Masters of Applied Science. You also need to take a minimum number of courses, but you have to do a thesis. And that thesis does not necessarily require a fundamental contribution, but requires some advanced level of application of methodology or techniques, so that you get through the process of developing your idea or your training on how to do a research step by step. So MSc is also research-oriented program. but the thesis does not have to have fundamental contribution to the state of the art, but requires very advanced level of application of techniques and methodology. On the other hand, MEng is more of a practical program where two or three types of options possible. One program would be the students just only take courseworks, 10 courseworks. Some student can take 8 coursework and one 2-course based project, or some student can take 9 courseworks and one course based project. So they do project, not the thesis. So it requires projects are not necessarily very highly research intensive, but requires practical work or empirical work, I would say, instead of practical. So those are called the MEng project. So PhD thesis, MSc thesis, we call MEng project. So these are the 3 programs students get enrolled to our program in transportation. Okay. Now I'll jump start to talking about well, whatever the program you start at UofT or anywhere, which is true for anywhere. Why should you try to finish your program as soon as possible? Well, one thing we anecdotally say, the graduate school is expensive, because not about how much tuition fee you pay. It's about the lost money too. Give a very simple example, like a salary of a student. I'm just making up these numbers. The numbers do not reflect the actual case study per se. Let's say you get total $25,000, and you pay $1,000 tuition fee and other fees, and you also make some money out of TA. So at the end of the day, you make 18K. And you divide $18,000 by 12, it's around like $1,500 per month. So if you consider 8 hours a day of work and the 5 days a week of work, it's around $75 per working day. What could happen if you just would start a job right away after your undergraduate, wouldn't start the graduate program? You just do the math with very simple made up salary structure. You would have made 3 times more than what you're making. So this is called opportunity cost, right? So being graduate students means sacrificing real money, and you are expecting something in between in future. So that's called lost salary. So just anecdotally listening to this lecture will cost you some money. So those monies are basically sunk costs. So graduate programs are expensive in that sense. So there is an incentive to finish program as soon as possible. That means you try your experience as much as you can, so that in a way you can efficiently sail through the program. At the same time, of course, you make sure you get all the experience along the way. So no unnecessary delay would be beneficial for you. As I said, PhD, masters, and MEng, all of them have their expected the duration. I said PhD comes up with 4-year worth of guaranteed funding. MSc comes up with 2 years worth of guaranteed funding. MEng doesn't have a funding requirement to it. But in general, we saw on an average in our program, an MEng student do not normally take more than 22 months to finish. Rarely take more than full 2 years if they do full course-based works. But it's just plus minus here and there. MSc students generally finish between 18 months to 24 months. That means if someone starts in September, they finish before next September, by August or July, so on and so forth. PhD students, depending on the program, depending on the type of research the students get involved in, it can ranges anything between 48 months to 54 months. Sometimes you may be done with your PhD work, but it takes some time to compile your thesis, and there are other systematic delays. Once you're done with your thesis, then we have to organize your final defense and stuff like that. At the Department of Civil and Mineral Engineering, our PhD exams are 2 in number. We do 1 defense at the department, we call departmental defense, that gives us the green light whether the student is ready for the final exam at the SGS level. So the final second exam we organize is called SGS exam. So these are the two exams. So Department of Defense does not have an external examiner, but SGS exam has. So those arrangement takes some systematic time too. So, but in general, it takes 48 to 54 months. Some extraordinary students can finish, well, had finished before, way earlier than 48 months, but general timeline is like that. So, but you know, at the end of your PhD, and also the same is true for MSc, if you look back your thesis, you would, that's the expectation, you would realize you could have done the work much faster, much easily. Well, if you have an idea, that will tell that you have done a great job, because when you are in a program, you learn through the process, and you learn through ups and downs, and learn through you know, step by step doing it. So it may take longer. If you look back retrospectively after you are done, you would feel like you could have done it much faster. So these are pretty common understanding. Having said that, what I'm trying to say is that there will be you know, frustration, experience, excitement while doing a PhD work, while doing an MSc work. But going smoothly, as efficiently as possible through the process is important. If at the end you look back, you will have very interesting takeaway lessons and understanding. So if you are done with PhD and look back your thesis again, say, oh, I could have done it in 2 years instead of 4 years. That means you have learned things very well. Okay. So there are various type of experience out there. It's very difficult to say which one you will fall in, but these are the general picture I was trying to picture. So whatever you do, is it if it is a PhD program or if it is a master's program, we all start with coursework, as I said. Coursework helps you, you know, prepare yourselves for the research that you are heading towards. At the same time, give you some time to reflect, okay, or give you some time to plan ahead. So what there's a famous quote is like, give me 6 hours to cut down a tree, and I will spend first 4 hours sharpening the axe. That means planning is very important. Well, planning means you try to project where you want to go, okay? Where you want to go, where you want to do at the end. What is your objective? What is your goal? So planning is the key for any efficient research. Well, if you think, well, let's start and let's how things go, that may take a long time. Rather, you think rigorously, look around what other people are doing, do literature review, and build your understanding about overall process that is efficient over the other, then you can pick on the most efficient one. So planning is the key to finish quickly. Planning is key to do you know, real better research than unplanned ones. But planning is very hard and much harder than doing, because you try to project what you could do, try to project what you would get at the end. So planning requires rigorous thinking, lots of brainstorming. You by yourself, you with your supervisor, you with your you know, classmates in the lab, outside the lab, on the stairways, in the elevator case, and wherever you can. So you require brainstorming. It requires rigorous thinking. It requires reading others' work, reading previous thesis work, reading previous research papers. So it is important that you plan things ahead. So if you can't plan things ahead, you are at the mercy of process. Then it can take longer than you can expect. So planning is very critical. Preparing and plan it requires some of the stuff you look specifically. Okay, you look at one in transportation research at the UofT. Almost all of our students' works are empirical in nature. So you do rigorous theoretical investigation, but at the end of the day, we rely on empirical work to justify a theory or justify a process, to evaluate a methodology, to investigate a particular investigation. So you look at what data you need. When you plan, you try to find out what data you can have, what software you would need, what software we do have, what materials you would require to make your experience you know, useful, and your research work successful. Okay. So you need to plan ahead everything, plan ahead every project. Of course, I mean, you cannot, the planning is not always unidirectional. You might need to revise things up, right? Even PhD proposal after comprehensive might require some sort of adjustment too, right? So I'm not referring that you're going to plan everything cast in stone and just follow it. That's not how it works, especially research, because research has high level of uncertainty in there. But at least you plan the outset of your project or your thesis. You try to identify what actually you want to do. Okay, what are the key objectives, and that will give you the guidance which area of literature you're going to dive deep into, what area you're going to focus more or less, what type of books you're going to read, what types of papers you're going to read, what types of empirical research you're going to focus on, so on and so forth. If it requires doing some sort of experiment, an experiment in transportation is not necessarily laboratory-based experiment. It could be a psychological experiment, it could be database experiment, it could be mathematical model-based experiment. So you, in that case, you work or think rigorously what type of experiment you have to do, what should be the time frame, what are the internal or intermediate milestone you need to hit or you need to satisfy. You tentatively define those things. And you also plan for what type of analysis you want to do and how you're going to start the write-up. At least the framework need to be well thought. Okay. If you can do that as much as possible, your experience would be much smoother, and you can also efficiently finish quick. Knowing where you are going is important. Okay. Knowing where you are going means your end goal. As I said, it may not be possible to precisely define where you want to go, but at least generally. So do you want to develop a new methodology, or do you want to investigate a new solution, or you want to investigate a new problem, or you want to develop a new data collection program, you want to collect data and then apply the data to simulation techniques, so on and so forth. So knowing where you want to go, what you actually want to do at the end, give some thought on it and make your conception clear. Okay, you must have a clear idea of what is your overall goal. Okay, if you don't have a clear idea and you basically wander around, and that will take some time off, and the time is very precious there, right? So planning involves breaking down your objective into smaller one, more manageable part. That means, well, you might have very big objective, like you want to develop a method that will help save, critical energy resource, for example, or you want to develop a traffic management system that will help reduce traffic congestion. Those are big objectives. But how are you going to reach there? You you try to break it down to small objectives. Let's say, well, I want to develop a methodology that will help save energy resource. Okay, so how are you going to do that? So you're going to develop better traffic control devices, or you're going to develop a better simulation technique that will help decision makers come up with the best solution. Okay, so then you need to develop models. So what would the model require? Model require data, model require network coding software. Okay, so you need a software. What type of software is available out there? What type of data you would need? Can you get some of the data that are already existed, or you need to collect your own data? That's how you ask yourself step by step and try to frame out an overall plan or landscape through which you're going to navigate. And at this, at the end, when you start your work, you might need to adjust things here and there. Okay, so it's always better to think critically. You may end up thinking critically in one direction, do research in completely other direction, but thinking critically in one direction will help you to efficiently do any other things you do later, even you change it. Okay, so thinking critically and planning ahead is very important for both master's and PhD thesis, and also MH project too. Thesis organization is important. Well, you should not wait wait till you are done your work and think how you're going to organize it. It's true for any type of thesis, be it a master's thesis or PhD thesis. I always recommend my student to think in terms of your thesis chapters. Thesis chapters are, the series of investigations that are correlated to each other and tied together through a common goal and objective and stuff like that. So having a table of content of your thesis in mind would be very useful. Table of content means what are the chapters you want to have. Well, there are 3 or 4 common chapters will be existed in any thesis. Well, you're going to start with the introduction. You're going to start, second chapter would be typically the literature review. Third chapter would be maybe conceptual framework. Fourth would be data description. Then you have series of other chapter ended up with conclusion. So first 3 or 4 and the last one is pretty common. So keeping those in your mind, then you think about what else in terms of your objective of your research, what else you need to put together in the thesis. So thinking about in the table of content of thesis will give you a way of articulating your work in systematic ways. So developing flow diagrams, flow charts, and revising it time to time as your thesis progresses is important. Start with your hypothesis and objective. Hypothesis means start with the investigation, question of investigation that you are interested in based on your objectives, and detail all the elements of the thesis. Like, you do simulation, you do this analysis, that analysis, and all sorts of these things need to be documented and well planned. Okay, so organizing thesis, you shouldn't wait till the end of your work, but also you can think way ahead of it. That will help your work itself. So it's a tautological thing. So here's an example, simple example of a thesis could look like. Or the flow of thesis chapter. So you start with hypothesis. Let's say here is a made-up hypothesis: the warmer weather has a negative impact on transit mode share. Therefore, climate change will reduce transit ridership. Okay, that will spin off the preliminary data analysis. Well, you know what data you have, comparison of transit ridership to different weather records. Qualitative analysis and discussion with the transit authorities, interviews of the passengers to have some idea of whether you are thinking in right direction or not. That can give you a preliminary conclusion that when a result suggests that whether impact is important, not how much. Then you go into details to quantify how much. So you develop model, you develop different type of model, you use very specific type of data, and give you further steps or secondary experiment if necessary. Develop model for different type of market segment to see where different type of market or urban structure have different type of impact or not. You set out the whole subset of the data to validate your model. You apply the model for context and forecast the result and see how things could happen. And finally, you draw a conclusion. Your conclusion will include all of the things you investigate and all of the things you found, and also list type of assumption you made and what could have done differently, what is the future recommendation. So this is a typical flow of any thesis, master's or PhD. So you can cast your think on this framework and gradually build over time. So you do not necessarily write things down all the time, but writing down the notes and thoughts always help. But the preparing in that way will help you to speed things up. So changes in the direction of your research is always possible and always true, but you need to have preliminary ideas about the direction of work that may be drastically modified sometimes based on whether you have the data, whether you have you have thought about the things that correctly or not. But it's true. But each time you change your direction, you come up with new modified chart, or you basically update your thinking. Just document everything together. Investigating a general area and dedicating or deciding that you will see what comes up is not the best objective I was trying to say. It's called procrastination, and it's a recipe of extended stay in the department. You don't want to extend your stay longer than the desired time. Will disbenefit everybody. Okay, thinking critically, as I was saying, is important. The distinguishing between what is important, what is not, by thinking about it is important. That will give you intelligence. Just reading things and doing things not necessarily build your intelligence or experience. Thinking will help you to articulate your experience in terms of intelligence. Think about your data. Data can encapsulate many things. Whether whenever you see that you have discovered something in the data, ask critically, is it something, an outcome of something else? Critical thinking is key attribute of a good researcher anywhere and any stage of your career. Talk to people. Talking to people is useful. Talk to your professor, own professor, other professors in the department. Talk to other students. Talk to the people in the conferences. Talking helps in terms of articulating things and articulating your thought too. And also you can see by discussion you can learn a lot of things that will take a long time if you actually read stuff. So discussion helps. Talk to your social network, as an example, to a grandmother, to give a different perspective sometimes, whether things that you're doing is really making sense. Well, there's some example of weak graduate student. A student who don't really know what to do and that procrastinate and can get busy themselves in few courses, TA duties, and all sorts of this stuff, which can make you busy anytime, but is it something worth? So spend time on easy to manage shortcut tasks. Those are procrastination. Another example of good graduate student would be have multiple things on the go. The regular work like TA duty and email and studying and stuff like that, those are part of the work, but you also make big picture. You make a long-term plan. You are not satisfied with brief trivial meeting with your supervisor. You probe into the specific topics. You make sure that your supervisor is giving the time and that you deserve. Your supervisor in general are busy people. Supervisors are busy people. I know we call it. They have mortgage, kids, in-laws, back pains, and leaky basement. So that tells the reality of they're also human beings. They're always busy with multiple tasks. And supervisor may be happy if a meeting is canceled, but you should not be happy. Meeting is canceled. And supervisor, a lot of students, a lot of needs, and limited time. So supervisor do care about your project, but not as much as you should for your own project. Okay. Well, as I said, if a student doesn't work, if a student fails, it will not be end of the career of the supervisor, but it will end your career per se. Okay. Have a good relationship with supervisor is important. Your supervisor is a key person to the end of the whole system. So try to build a very strong relationship in terms of research and understanding. You deserve adequate time from the supervisor. You should have a meeting with the supervisor with regular basis. You should make it a point to talk about big picture. You should ask questions. You just don't listen all the supervisor says. You also inquire about specific aspect. Make a conversation. Supervisor is your immediate person above you, but supervisor it can be also a colleague, right? So have a good relationship and open discussion on research per se. I can give an example of poor meeting with the supervisor. Well, a poor meeting would be, well, a student comes up, say, I did the experiment, I did the modeling we discussed last week, but instead of this result, I got that result. Okay, I ended up some blank stare to each other, and from the student and supervisor look at it, and finally he pitches in, say, few suggestions to try this and that. This is very lame meeting. So if that's type of situation you face all the time, not once in a while, then you should sense yourself, are you doing good or not? Another example would be a good meeting. A student comes up with an idea, say that, well, you did this work, you did simulation, and these are the relationship that you discovered, you investigated, and your supervisor get busy, and the students get more into it and more detailed discussion into it, bring out the reference of work, and then that makes your supervisor also work. Okay, think hardly, and then participate with your research. Remember, your thesis is your baby, so you have to take care of it, bring it up. You take care of it, but supervisor can help you, but you also make things in a way that's easy to do from the supervisor, helping you in the way it is better to do. So move on the next issue, and you make things more enjoyable. Couple of useful traits to be a good researchers and good students in the group would be being methodical, meticulous, and reliable. I mean, don't make things up. Look at the evidence, look at the references. You need to be hardworking, and there is no other alternative of of being hardworking to be a successful individual in any program you can think about. Be creative, try to think outside the box, and in transportation is a multidisciplinary area, so you don't need to have have your thinking in a particular set of theories and set of objects. You can look beyond, and we always try to bring knowledge from other disciplines into it. Couple of tips to make a project running smoothly. Think critical paths, think alternatives ways of reaching your goals, and the efficient ways of reaching your goal. Schedule your task apparently, and have always a backup plan in mind. If this simulation doesn't work, what are you going to do? If the whole analysis fails, what are you going to do? If your hypothesis is totally wrong, what are you going to do? Think about backup plan. Okay. That is important. Test the extremes once the first and confirm that is feasible or not. And don't try the easy stuff first, and try to have the critical component first. And then you can see whether you are progressing well or not. Writing is important. Even though we do technical analysis, theses are highly technical, but we always encourage writing in a story way. We basically tell the story what you have done. Start with what you are trying to tell what you have done, and you wrap up by saying what you just told. So that's called story writing. You have a plot, you have evidence, you have data. So writing is an art. I mean, technical writing requires lots of technical reading. So you can build that skill, build a skill during the process, and reading and talking and discussing with others too. So in general, I like to conclude. So a couple of points. A clear objective, preferably founded on a strong scientific hypothesis, is one of the area you can focus on. A clear grasp of the overall scope of the work that requires critical thinking. A detailed plan, which can be modified and adjusted, manageable, but as detailed as possible plan is useful. Use of experienced researchers tips, that means talking to your supervisor, talking to this professors in other disciplines and other groups, talking to other students, older students, not older by age, and experienced students who are a couple of years ahead of your program, and thinking critically is important. So that's all I wanted to talk today, and give an idea before you start. And everybody has will have his or her own experience. But at the end of the day, these are the common things that will stand out. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I took more time than I should, but I will be happy to stay 10 minutes longer to respond to any questions you have.
Thank you, Professor Habib. So we have a couple of minutes to answer one or two questions. So if anyone has any kind of question, he or she can raise their hand, and Allah will promote them to a speaker, or you can use the chat box as well.
Marianne, thank you.
Hi, thanks, Habib. It's very nice. I enjoy this presentation every year.
Although the same presentation.
For you too, it just it gets you to start thinking a lot about your path here at UofT, all the people you encounter, the professors you encounter, but also the academic path that you will follow. It'll be nice to hear from some of the new students here. I don't think we've ever met. I'd love to hear from you.
Well, just to add one thing, I think Marianne, myself, and Matt Ruda have the experience of being a student of the same program and the professor. So if you have any question, you can ask any three of us and get insider knowledge and information. Well, also Amir Shalabi too. Amir Shalabi did his own program here and was a student as a professor too. Yeah. Well, to be true, Eric Miller too. It was a long time ago. He was our own student. So yeah. Well, if not, I think we will be happy to answer anytime. So you can reach me or any of the professors. Of course, anything related to academic and any other question. You can reach me by over email. Well, nowadays you have to reach by over email. In regular time, you can knock at our door anytime. So we're pretty open, and it doesn't have to be like you know, you don't have to be my student to talk to me. And same is true for any professor, I believe. If you think something interesting and you want to talk to a particular professor, you can just let us know. We'll be happy to talk. All right, I think we're right at time. If we